Maya Washington walked through the crowded hallway of Lincoln High School, clutching her books tightly against her chest. The 15-year-old had always been quiet, preferring to blend into the background rather than draw attention to herself. Her dark curls bounced gently as she moved, and her bright brown eyes stayed focused on the floor ahead of her. The school was buzzing with the usual morning energy. Students laughed loudly by their lockers, teachers hurried to their classrooms with coffee cups in hand, and the familiar sounds of teenage chatter filled the air. Maya had learned to navigate these hallways carefully over the past 2 years, since her family moved to this predominantly white suburban town. As she rounded the corner near the main staircase, Maya noticed a group of students blocking her usual path to her first period chemistry class. 3 boys from her grade stood in a tight circle, their voices carrying that particular tone she had come to recognize, the kind that meant trouble was brewing. Jake Morrison, tall with sandy blonde hair, was the unofficial leader of this group. His family had money and everyone knew it from the expensive clothes he wore and the new car he drove to school. "Look who's coming our way," Jake said loudly, nudging his friend Tyler with his elbow. Tyler snickered, adjusting his baseball cap as he turned to look at Maya. The third boy, Marcus, seemed less enthusiastic, but didn't move away from the group. Maya's stomach tightened. She had dealt with these 3 before. Usually just mean comments or deliberate shoulder bumps in the hallway. Nothing too serious, but enough to make her dread certain parts of her school day. She considered turning around and taking the long way to class, but she was already running late, and Mr. Peterson didn't tolerate tardiness. Taking a deep breath, Maya decided to walk past them quickly. She kept her head down and picked up her pace, hoping they would lose interest and let her pass without incident. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly in front of her, and she could feel their eyes following her movement. "Hey, Maya," Jake called out in a fake friendly voice that made her skin crawl. "Where are you rushing off to? Don't you want to talk to us?" Maya didn't respond. She had learned that engaging with them only made things worse. Her mother had always told her to ignore bullies, that they would eventually get bored and move on to someone else. But these boys seemed to have endless patience when it came to making her life difficult. As she tried to squeeze past the group, Jake stepped directly into her path. Maya stopped short, nearly bumping into him. Her heart started racing, and she could feel other students beginning to notice the confrontation. Some slowed down to watch, while others pretended not to see what was happening. "Excuse me," Maya said quietly, trying to step around Jake. Her voice came out smaller than she intended, barely audible over the noise of the hallway. "Excuse you for what?" Tyler laughed, moving to block her other side. "We're just trying to be friendly here." Maya felt trapped between the 3 boys and the wall of lockers behind her. Her palms started to sweat and she adjusted her grip on her textbooks. She glanced around, hoping to catch the eye of a teacher or someone who might help, but the adults seemed to be focused on their own morning routines. "I need to get to class," Maya said, her voice slightly stronger this time. She looked directly at Jake, meeting his pale blue eyes with her own steady gaze. "Class can wait," Jake replied, his friendly facade beginning to slip. "We need to have a little chat about something first." The hallway around them seemed to grow quieter, as if other students sensed that something was about to happen. Maya noticed a few kids pulling out their phones, and her heart sank. Whatever was about to occur would likely end up on social media within minutes. "What do you want?" Maya asked, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. She was tired of being afraid, tired of walking on eggshells around these boys who seemed to think they owned the school. Jake's smile turned mean. "We want you to understand something about how things work around here," he said, taking a step closer to Maya. "This isn't your neighborhood, and some of us don't appreciate outsiders thinking they can just waltz in here and act like they belong." Maya felt a flash of anger rise in her chest. She had been attending Lincoln High for 2 years, had maintained good grades, and had never caused trouble for anyone. The unfairness of Jake's words hit her like a physical blow. "I have every right to be here," Maya replied, her voice growing stronger with each word, "and I'm not going anywhere." The tension in the hallway was thick now, and Maya could see more students gathering at a safe distance to watch the drama unfold. She realized that this moment would define how the rest of her high school experience played out. She could back down, apologize, and try to slip away quietly, or she could stand her ground and face whatever consequences came next. Jake's expression darkened at her defiant response. He had clearly expected her to cower and submit like she had in previous encounters. Tyler and Marcus moved closer, forming a tighter circle around Maya. "You need to learn some respect," Jake said, his voice low and threatening. "And maybe we're just the ones to teach it to you." Maya squared her shoulders and looked each of the boys in the eye. She thought about her parents who had worked so hard to give her opportunities in this new town. She thought about her little brother, who looked up to her. And she thought about all the times she had walked away from confrontations, hoping things would get better on their own. This time would be different. The morning bell rang, cutting through the tension like a knife. Most students hurried toward their classrooms, but a significant crowd remained in the hallway, phones out and recording. Maya's chemistry class was on the second floor, and she needed to get past these 3 boys to reach the staircase. "Move," Maya said firmly, taking a step forward. Her voice carried a new authority that surprised everyone, including herself. Jake laughed, but there was less confidence in it than before. "Or what? What are you going to do about it?" "I'm going to report you to Principal Martinez if you don't let me pass," Maya replied. She knew the threat was weak. She had tried reporting their behavior before, only to be told that boys will be boys, and that she should try to work things out on her own. "Go ahead," Tyler chimed in. "Martinez loves us. My dad donated money for the new football field, remember?" Maya's jaw tightened. The casual way Tyler mentioned his family's influence made her stomach turn. It was a reminder of how different their worlds were, how the rules seemed to bend differently for students like them compared to students like her. Without warning, Jake reached out and grabbed Maya's collar, his fingers twisting in the fabric of her favorite purple sweater. The move was so sudden and aggressive that Maya dropped one of her textbooks, and it hit the floor with a loud thud that echoed through the hallway. "Let go of me," Maya said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. She could feel the fabric pulling tight against her neck and the humiliation burned in her chest. "Make me," Jake taunted, tightening his grip. Tyler stepped closer, clearly enjoying the spectacle, while Marcus looked uncomfortable but didn't intervene. Maya could hear the whispers of the watching students, could see the phones pointed in her direction. She knew that within hours, videos of this moment would be shared across social media platforms, commented on by classmates and possibly seen by her parents. The thought of her mother's worried face when she saw the footage made Maya's resolve strengthen. "I said let go," Maya repeated, her voice growing louder. She reached up and firmly grasped Jake's wrist with both hands. Jake jerked back, trying to pull away, but Maya held on. The sudden movement caused her to stumble forward, and for a moment it looked like she might fall. The crowd gasped and someone shouted, "Fight! Fight!" But Maya didn't fall. Instead, she planted her feet firmly and used Jake's own momentum against him. In one smooth motion, she twisted his wrist in a way that forced him to release her collar or risk injury to his arm. It was a move her older cousin had taught her during a family reunion the previous summer, a basic self-defense technique that she never thought she would need to use. Jake yelped in surprise and pain, stumbling backward into Tyler. His face turned red, partly from embarrassment and partly from anger. "You're going to pay for that," he snarled. "No," Maya said, her voice carrying clearly through the hallway. "I'm done paying for anything. I'm done being quiet while you and your friends make my life miserable." She bent down to pick up her fallen textbook, never taking her eyes off the 3 boys. The hallway had gone completely silent except for the sound of her heart pounding in her ears. "You think you're tough now?" Jake asked, rubbing his wrist. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is," Maya replied, "because I'm not the same girl who used to walk away from you. And I'm not going to let you or anyone else make me feel like I don't belong here." Principal Martinez's voice suddenly boomed through the hallway. "What's going on here?" "Everyone needs to get to class immediately." The crowd began to disperse quickly, students pocketing their phones and hurrying toward their classrooms. Maya gathered her books and started walking toward the staircase, her legs feeling shaky but her head held high. "Ms. Washington, Mr. Morrison, Mr. Chen, and Mr. Williams," Principal Martinez called out. "My office now." Maya's heart sank. She had hoped to make it to class without administrative involvement, but she should have known better. In situations like this, everyone involved typically got in trouble, regardless of who started the conflict. As they walked toward the principal's office, Jake whispered harshly, "You're going to regret this." Maya turned to look at him, and for the first time in 2 years, she wasn't afraid of his threats. "The only thing I regret is not standing up to you sooner," she replied. The walk to the principal's office felt like it took forever. Maya's mind raced with thoughts of phone calls home, potential suspension, and her parents' disappointment. But underneath the worry, she felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time: pride in herself for finally fighting back. Principal Martinez was a middle-aged woman with graying hair and tired eyes, who had been running Lincoln High for over a decade. She had a reputation for being fair but strict, though Maya had always suspected that fairness looked different depending on which family you belonged to. "Sit down, all of you," Martinez said, gesturing to the chairs arranged in front of her desk. "I want to hear exactly what happened out there, and I want the truth from each of you." Maya took a deep breath and prepared to tell her side of the story. She had spent 2 years being the quiet, compliant student who never caused trouble. Today that was going to change, regardless of the consequences. As she opened her mouth to speak, Maya realized that this moment in the principal's office wasn't just about the hallway incident. It was about every time she had been made to feel small, every comment she had ignored, every day she had walked through these halls feeling like she had to prove she deserved to be there. Today, she was done proving anything to anyone. Principal Martinez looked at each student carefully before speaking. Her office walls were covered with certificates, awards, and photos from school events spanning her career at Lincoln High. Maya had only been in this office once before, during her enrollment 2 years ago, but she remembered feeling intimidated by all the formal decorations. "Jake, you start," Martinez said, leaning back in her chair. "Tell me what happened in the hallway." Jake straightened up, putting on his most innocent expression. "We were just trying to talk to Maya, and she got violent for no reason. She grabbed my wrist and twisted it. I think she might have sprained something." He held up his wrist dramatically, though Maya noticed he had been using it just fine during their walk to the office. Tyler nodded eagerly. "That's exactly what happened. We were just standing there and she attacked Jake. There were tons of witnesses who saw the whole thing." Marcus shifted uncomfortably in his seat, but remained silent. Maya could tell he didn't want to be involved but was too scared of his friends to speak up. "Is that so?" Martinez asked, raising an eyebrow. She turned to Maya. "What's your version of events?" Maya took a deep breath. "Jake grabbed my collar and wouldn't let me pass. I asked him multiple times to let go, and when he wouldn't, I defended myself. I used the minimum force necessary to get free." "She's lying," Jake interrupted. "I never touched her." "Ask anyone who was there." "I will," Martinez replied firmly. "And Jake, don't interrupt when someone else is speaking." "Maya, continue." Maya felt a surge of gratitude that the principal was at least giving her a chance to tell her story. "This isn't the first time they've bothered me. It's been going on for months. They block my path, make comments, and try to intimidate me. Today, Jake physically grabbed me and I had enough." "That's ridiculous," Tyler scoffed. "We barely even know her. Why would we waste our time picking on some random girl?" Maya felt her anger flare at his dismissive tone, but she kept her voice calm. "You know me well enough to call me names and make it clear I'm not welcome here. You know me well enough to target me specifically when there are plenty of other students you could ignore instead." Principal Martinez took notes as Maya spoke, her expression unreadable. "Marcus, you've been very quiet. What did you see?" Marcus looked miserable, caught between his friends and the truth. He glanced nervously at Jake and Tyler before speaking. I mean, things happened pretty fast. Maya was trying to get to class and there was some kind of confrontation." "Did Jake grab Maya's collar?" Martinez asked directly. Marcus's face flushed red. He opened his mouth, closed it, then looked down at his hands. "I don't really remember exactly how it started," he mumbled. Maya could see that Marcus knew the truth but was too scared to say it. She felt bad for him in a way. He was clearly uncomfortable with his friend's behavior but lacked the courage to speak up against them. "Convenient memory loss," Martinez observed dryly. "Well, it's a good thing we have security cameras in the hallways." Jake's confident expression flickered for just a moment and Maya caught it. She had forgotten about the cameras, but apparently Jake had too. "Let's take a look at the footage, shall we?" Martinez said, turning to her computer. She pulled up the security system and navigated to the camera that covered the main hallway where the incident occurred. The room fell silent, except for the clicking of Martinez's mouse and keyboard. Maya's heart pounded as she waited to see what the camera had captured. She was confident in her version of events. But she also knew that cameras didn't always tell the complete story. After a few minutes, Martinez found the right timestamp and began playing the video. The black and white footage clearly showed Maya walking down the hallway with her books, Jake and his friends blocking her path, and the entire confrontation that followed. Maya watched Jake's face carefully as the video played. His cocky expression gradually faded as the camera clearly captured him grabbing her collar, her attempts to get him to release her, and her defensive response when he wouldn't let go. "Interesting," Martinez said when the video ended. "Jake, would you like to revise your statement?" Jake's face had gone pale. "The camera doesn't show everything," he said weakly. "It doesn't show what she said to us before that, or how she was acting threatening. The camera shows you blocking her path, grabbing her clothing and refusing to release her when she asked you to," Martinez replied. "It also shows her using only enough force to free herself before immediately backing away. Maya, your account matches exactly what I see on this footage." Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her. For once, the truth was being heard and believed. "Furthermore," Martinez continued, "this appears to be part of a pattern of harassment. Maya, you mentioned this has been going on for months. Have you documented any previous incidents?" Maya nodded. "I kept notes in my phone about dates and what happened, hoping it would eventually stop on its own. Can you share those with me?" Maya pulled out her phone and opened her notes app. She had pages of entries documenting encounters with Jake, Tyler, and occasionally other students. Comments about her appearance, her family, her right to be at the school, deliberate attempts to bump into her or block her way. It was all there, carefully recorded with dates and times. As she read some of the entries aloud, Maya watched Jake's expression grow more worried. Tyler had gone completely silent, and Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. "This is extensive documentation of harassment and intimidation," Martinez said grimly. "Boys, this behavior is completely unacceptable and goes against everything our school stands for. Jake, you're looking at a 3-day suspension, and Tyler, you'll have 2 days. Marcus, because you didn't participate directly but also didn't intervene or report the behavior, you'll have 1 day of in-school suspension." "That's not fair," Jake protested. "My dad's going to hear about this. He'll call the school board." "Your father is welcome to call whoever he wants," Martinez replied calmly. "The school board will see the same security footage and documentation that I have. Maya, you acted in self-defense after being physically grabbed and after attempting to resolve the situation peacefully. You won't face any disciplinary action." Maya felt like she could finally breathe properly for the first time in months. Someone in authority had actually listened to her, looked at the evidence, and made a fair decision based on the facts rather than assumptions or family connections. But she also knew that this was just the beginning. The real test would be how things played out when she returned to the hallways and classrooms of Lincoln High. Word spread through Lincoln High faster than Maya had expected. By lunchtime, everyone seemed to know about the hallway incident and the principal's decision. As Maya walked into the cafeteria, carrying her brown bag lunch, she could feel dozens of eyes on her. The cafeteria was arranged like most high schools, long tables where different social groups claimed their territory. The athletes sat near the windows, the theater kids occupied the corner by the stage, and the academic achievers gathered near the library entrance. Maya usually sat alone at a small table in the middle, trying to stay invisible while she ate. Today felt different. Students were openly staring at her, whispering to their friends and pointing in her direction. Maya's stomach churned as she heard fragments of conversations. "Can you believe she actually fought back? I heard Jake got suspended for 3 whole days. My mom's going to freak when she finds out what happened. Good for her. Those boys had it coming." Maya was surprised by that last comment. She turned to see who had said it and spotted Amanda Chen, Marcus's older sister, sitting with a group of junior girls. Amanda gave her a small nod of approval before turning back to her lunch. As Maya sat down at her usual table, she noticed something unexpected. Sarah Martinez, a quiet sophomore from her English class, approached hesitantly with her lunch tray. Maya?" Sarah said softly. "Would it be okay if I sat with you today?" Maya looked up, surprised. She had never really talked to Sarah beyond basic classroom interactions. "Of course," Maya replied, gesturing to the empty chair across from her. Sarah sat down carefully as if she might change her mind and leave at any moment. "I just wanted to say that I think what you did was really brave." "I just wanted to say that I think what you did was really brave." Those boys have been jerks to lots of people, not just you. Really? Maya asked, unwrapping her sandwich. She had thought she was their only target. Oh yeah, Sarah said, lowering her voice. Last year, Tyler made my friend Jessica cry because he kept calling her Four Eyes and knocking her books out of her hands. And Jake once cornered my little brother in the bathroom and threatened him just because he accidentally bumped into Jake in the hallway. Maya felt a mix of anger and sadness hearing this. Why didn't anyone report it? Sarah shrugged sadly. Same reason you probably didn't report it at first. Their families have money and influence. Teachers and administrators tend to believe them over the rest of us. Plus, they're smart about doing things when adults aren't around. As they talked, Maya noticed more students glancing in their direction. Some looked supportive, others seemed curious, and a few appeared disapproving. She could see Jake's friends huddled together at their usual table near the windows, shooting dark looks her way. Aren't you worried they'll come after you for talking to me? Maya asked Sarah. Sarah considered this for a moment. Maybe, but I'm tired of being scared of them. Seeing you stand up to Jake made me realize that maybe we don't have to put up with their behavior anymore. Their conversation was interrupted when 3 more students approached their table. Maya recognized them as classmates but had never spoken to any of them before. Is it okay if we sit here? Asked David Kim, a soft-spoken boy from Maya's history class. The cafeteria is pretty crowded today. Maya could tell it wasn't really about the cafeteria being crowded. There were plenty of empty seats elsewhere. But she nodded, and soon their small table was full of students who had apparently been looking for an excuse to show support. I can't believe Jake actually got suspended, said Maria Gonzalez, a girl from Maya's grade. His dad usually gets him out of trouble before any consequences stick. What changed? Asked David. Security cameras, Sarah explained, and Maya kept detailed records of everything they did to her. The principal couldn't ignore actual evidence. Maya felt uncomfortable being the center of attention, but she also felt something she hadn't experienced at Lincoln High before, a sense of belonging. These students were treating her like an equal, like someone whose experience mattered. I should have done something sooner, Maya admitted. I kept thinking if I just ignored them, they'd eventually get bored and leave me alone. That's what all the adults tell us to do, Maria said bitterly. Just ignore the bullies and they'll go away. But they never do. They just get worse, David added, because they learn they can get away with it. As Maya listened to her new lunch companions share their own stories of dealing with harassment and intimidation, she realized that her experience wasn't unique. Many students at Lincoln High had been dealing with similar problems, but they had all been suffering in silence, thinking they were alone. Maybe we should start a club or something, Sarah suggested. You know, for students who want to support each other when stuff like this happens. Like a peer support group? Maria asked, warming to the idea. Maya found herself nodding. We could meet once a week and just talk about what's going on. And if someone's having trouble with bullies, the rest of us could help them figure out what to do. I love that idea, David said. We could call it the Student Alliance or something like that. Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion near the athletes' table. Maya looked over to see Tyler Chen standing up, his face red with anger. He was gesturing in their direction and talking loudly to his teammates. Great, Sarah muttered. Tyler looks upset. Let him be upset, Maria said firmly. What's he going to do? Get suspended like his friend? Maya felt her new confidence waver slightly. She had won the battle in the principal's office, but she was starting to realize that the war was far from over. Jake and Tyler had friends throughout the school, and not all of them would be intimidated by security cameras and administrative consequences. Are you worried about retaliation? David asked quietly, apparently noticing Maya's expression. Maya considered lying, but these students had been honest with her, so she decided to return the favor. A little. Jake promised this wasn't over before we went to the principal's office. Then we'll stick together, Sarah said simply. They might be willing to pick on one person, but they'll think twice about targeting a group. Exactly, Maria agreed. Safety in numbers. As the lunch period wound down, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in 2 years at Lincoln High. Hope. Maybe things really could change. Maybe she didn't have to face this alone anymore. But as they gathered their belongings to head to afternoon classes, Maya caught sight of Tyler and 2 other boys watching her table carefully. Their expressions made it clear that her troubles were far from over. The real test would come in the days ahead, when Jake returned from suspension, and the initial excitement over Maya's stand died down. Would her new allies still support her when the pressure increased? And would Maya's newfound courage be enough to handle whatever came next? 3 days passed before Jake returned to school, and Maya could feel the tension building during his absence. Tyler had been unusually quiet, avoiding eye contact with her in the hallways and keeping his distance. But Maya knew Jake's return would bring a new level of challenge. During those 3 days, something unexpected happened. The informal lunch group that had formed around Maya grew larger each day. Students she had never spoken to before began sitting at their table, sharing stories of their own experiences with bullying and intimidation. Word about their idea for a student alliance had spread, and by Thursday afternoon, nearly 20 students had expressed interest in joining. Maya found herself in an unfamiliar position. She was becoming a leader. Students approached her between classes to ask about the group, to share their stories, or simply to express support. The quiet girl who had spent 2 years trying to be invisible was now at the center of a growing movement. On Thursday evening, Maya's mother noticed the change in her daughter's demeanor during dinner. "You seem different lately," Dr. Washington observed, passing the salad bowl to Maya. "More confident. Did something happen at school?" Maya had been dreading this conversation. She had managed to avoid telling her parents about the incident so far, but she knew they would find out eventually. High school gossip had a way of reaching parents through various channels. "Actually, yes," Maya said, setting down her fork. "I had a confrontation with some boys who have been bothering me. It got handled by the principal." Maya's father, a quiet man who worked as an engineer, looked up from his plate with concern. "What kind of confrontation? Are you okay?" Maya told her parents the whole story, starting with the months of harassment and ending with the principal's decision. She watched their faces carefully, expecting anger, disappointment, or worry. Instead, she saw something else. Pride. "I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself," her mother said firmly. "I know we always taught you to try to handle things peacefully, but sometimes you have to defend yourself when someone puts their hands on you. Are you sure you're not in any trouble with the school?" Her father asked. "No trouble at all. The principal said I acted in self-defense, and the security cameras backed up my story." Her parents exchanged a look that Maya couldn't quite read. Finally, her mother spoke. "Maya, there's something you should know. We've been getting phone calls from other parents." Maya's heart sank. "What kind of phone calls?" "Supportive ones," her father said, surprising her. "Mrs. Kim called to say that David came home excited about some student group you're starting. Mrs. Martinez, the principal's sister-in-law, called to say her daughter Sarah has been happier this week than she's been all year. And," her mother added with a slight smile, "Mrs. Morrison called to complain about you. But it was such an obviously one-sided story that it actually made us more proud of how you handled the situation." Maya felt a wave of relief. Not only were her parents not angry, but other parents were actually supporting her. It was a completely different response than she had expected. Friday morning arrived with Jake's return to school. Maya spotted him at his locker before first period, surrounded by his usual group of friends. He looked angry and embarrassed, and when he caught sight of Maya across the hallway, his expression darkened further. Maya felt her stomach tighten, but she didn't look away this time. She met his stare directly and continued walking to her own locker. She could feel his eyes following her, but she refused to show fear. During lunch, the confrontation Maya had been expecting finally came. She was sitting with her now regular group of friends when Jake appeared at their table, flanked by Tyler and 2 other boys Maya didn't recognize well. Well, Jake said loudly, drawing attention from nearby tables. "Look what we have here." Maya's little support group for crybabies and snitches. The cafeteria around them began to quiet as students sensed drama brewing. Maya felt her heart racing, but she noticed that her lunch companions didn't scatter like she might have expected. Instead, they closed ranks around her. "We're just eating lunch, Jake," Sarah said calmly. "Maybe you should do the same." "I'm not talking to you," Jake snapped, his eyes fixed on Maya. "I'm talking to the girl who thinks she's hot stuff now. You got me suspended, but that doesn't make you special. You're still the same nobody you always were." Maya stood up slowly, her chair scraping against the floor. The sound seemed to echo through the increasingly quiet cafeteria. She could feel hundreds of eyes on her, waiting to see what would happen next. "You're right about one thing," Maya said, her voice carrying clearly through the room. Getting you suspended didn't make me special. I was always special. I just forgot that for a while. Jake's face reddened. You think you're better than us because you got some losers to sit with you at lunch? This isn't over. Not even close. Yes, it is, Maya replied firmly. Because I'm not the same person who used to let you walk all over her. And I'm not alone anymore. As if to emphasize her point, Maria stood up beside Maya, followed by David, then Sarah, then the rest of their table. Other students throughout the cafeteria began standing as well. Some Maya recognized from classes. Others she had never spoken to before. Within minutes, more than half the cafeteria was standing in silent support of Maya. The message was clear. Jake and his friends no longer held the power they once had. Students were no longer willing to look the other way while bullying happened in front of them. Jake looked around the room, clearly stunned by the show of unity. His face went from red to pale as he realized how outnumbered he was. Even some of his usual supporters remained seated, unwilling to publicly align themselves with his behavior. This is ridiculous, Tyler muttered, tugging on Jake's arm. Let's just go, but Jake wasn't ready to back down. You think this changes anything?
He asked Maya desperately.
You think having some people stand up makes you tough? No, Maya replied calmly. What makes me tough is knowing who I am and not being afraid to stand up for it. What makes me strong is having friends who care about doing the right thing. And what makes me confident is knowing that bullies like you only have power if we give it to you. The silence in the cafeteria was complete now. Even the lunch staff had stopped what they were doing to watch the confrontation unfold. Principal Martinez's voice suddenly cut through the tension. Mr. Morrison, I need to see you in my office immediately. Jake spun around to see the principal standing in the cafeteria entrance, her expression stern. Apparently, someone had alerted her to the brewing conflict. I wasn't doing anything wrong, Jake protested. I was just talking. Now, Mr. Morrison, Martinez repeated firmly. As Jake reluctantly followed the principal out of the cafeteria, the standing students gradually returned to their seats. But Maya remained standing for a moment longer, looking around at the sea of supportive faces. She had come to Lincoln High 2 years ago feeling like an outsider who had to prove she belonged. Today she realized she had been looking at it all wrong. She didn't need to prove anything to anyone. She belonged here simply because she was here. And anyone who had a problem with that would have to deal with her and the growing community of students who refused to tolerate intolerance. 2 months later, Maya stood in front of the packed auditorium at Lincoln High, looking out at an audience of students, teachers, parents, and community members. The monthly Student Alliance meeting had grown far beyond what anyone had imagined when Sarah first suggested the idea over lunch. What started as a small support group of 6 students had become a school-wide movement with over 100 active members. The Alliance had implemented a peer mediation program, established anonymous reporting systems for harassment, and created mentorship opportunities between older and younger students. Maya adjusted the microphone and took a deep breath. Public speaking still made her nervous, but she had learned that courage wasn't about not being afraid. It was about doing the right thing despite the fear. 3 months ago, I was grabbed by my collar in the hallway of this school. Maya began, her voice steady and clear. The boy who grabbed me thought he could intimidate me into silence, make me feel like I didn't belong here. He was wrong. The audience was completely quiet, hanging on her every word. Maya could see her parents in the 3rd row, beaming with pride. Principal Martinez sat in the front row, taking notes as Maya spoke. But this story isn't really about that boy or what he did to me. It's about what happened next. It's about the moment I decided I was worth defending. It's about the friends who chose to stand with me instead of looking the other way. And it's about a school community that decided to change. Maya paused, looking around the auditorium. She spotted Sarah giving her an encouraging thumbs up from the side of the stage. David and Maria sat with the other Alliance officers in the 2nd row, all smiling proudly. The Student Alliance started because we realized that bullying thrives in isolation. When victims feel alone and witnesses stay silent, bullies have all the power. But when we come together, when we support each other and speak up for what's right, everything changes. She gestured to a large poster board beside the stage that displayed statistics from the past 2 months. Since the Alliance began, reported incidents of bullying at Lincoln High have decreased by 60%. But more importantly, reports of students seeking help when they're struggling have increased by 200%. Students are no longer suffering in silence. The audience broke into spontaneous applause and Maya felt a warmth spread through her chest. This was what real change looked like. Not just stopping bad behavior, but creating an environment where everyone felt safe to be themselves. We've also learned that change isn't always comfortable, Maya continued when the applause died down. Some students and families have resisted our efforts. They've complained that we're being too sensitive, that we're changing traditions they value. But we've learned that tradition isn't an excuse for cruelty, and comfort isn't more important than safety. Maya's eyes found Jake Morrison in the audience. He was sitting near the back with his parents, looking uncomfortable but present. After the cafeteria incident, Jake had been suspended for an additional week and required to attend anger management counseling. The Alliance had also implemented a restorative justice program, which meant Jake had to face the students he had hurt and make genuine amends. It hadn't been easy. Jake's initial attempts at apology were clearly forced and insincere. But over time, with guidance from school counselors and pressure from his own parents, he had begun to show real remorse for his actions. He wasn't ready to join the Alliance yet, but he had stopped actively opposing it. Change is hard for everyone, Maya said, still looking in Jake's direction. It requires us to examine our own behavior, admit when we've been wrong, and commit to doing better. But it's also liberating. When we stop wasting energy on hate and fear, we have so much more room for friendship, creativity, and joy. Tyler Chen had transferred to a private school after his parents decided Lincoln High wasn't the right fit for their family. Marcus, however, had surprised everyone by quietly joining the Alliance during its second month. He rarely spoke during meetings, but his presence sent a powerful message about the possibility of redemption and growth. The Alliance has taught us that we're stronger together than we ever were apart. Maya continued, we've learned that diversity isn't something to fear or merely tolerate. It's our greatest strength. When students from different backgrounds, different interests, and different experiences come together with shared values of respect and kindness, amazing things happen. Maya gestured to the audience, which truly was diverse in every sense of the word. Students of different races, religions, and economic backgrounds sat together. Athletes sat next to theater kids, honor students next to struggling learners, popular kids next to those who had always felt like outsiders. Our work isn't finished, Maya said, her voice growing stronger. Bullying and discrimination didn't disappear overnight, and they won't stay gone without constant effort. But we've proven that change is possible when ordinary students decide to do extraordinary things. She looked directly at the younger students in the audience, the 6th and 7th graders, who would be the future of Lincoln High. To the students who are listening and thinking that you're not brave enough or strong enough to make a difference, I want you to know something. I thought the same thing about myself. I spent 2 years believing I had to accept mistreatment because I was just one person who didn't matter. I was wrong. Every single one of you matters. Every single one of you has the power to change someone's day, someone's year, or even someone's life. Maya's voice caught slightly with emotion as she continued. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be willing to try. Willing to speak up when you see someone being hurt. Willing to sit with the lonely kid at lunch. Willing to report problems instead of ignoring them. Willing to believe that you deserve respect and that everyone else does too. The auditorium erupted in sustained applause as Maya concluded her speech. Students jumped to their feet and soon the entire audience was standing and clapping. Maya felt tears of joy and relief streaming down her face as she looked out at the sea of supportive faces. As the applause finally died down, Principal Martinez took the microphone. Maya Washington, she said, you came to Lincoln High as a quiet freshman who just wanted to fit in. Today you're graduating as a young woman who has transformed not just our school, but our entire community. You've reminded us all that leadership isn't about titles or popularity. It's about having the courage to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult. Maya looked out at the audience one final time, her eyes finding familiar faces throughout the crowd. Her parents, whose love and support had given her the foundation to be strong. Sarah, whose friendship had shown her she wasn't alone. David and Maria and dozens of other Alliance members who had chosen solidarity over silence. Even Marcus, whose presence proved that people could change and grow. And there, in the back corner of the auditorium, she saw something that surprised her. a small group of middle school students from the district's feeder schools, brought by their teachers to hear Maya speak. They were watching her with wide eyes, taking notes, whispering excitedly to each other about starting their own peer support programs. Maya realized that her story was no longer just about one girl standing up to bullies at one school. It had become something bigger, a ripple effect of courage and kindness that would continue long after she graduated and moved on to college. As she left the stage to thunderous applause, Maya thought about the girl she had been 3 months ago. Afraid, isolated, convinced she had to prove her worth to people who would never value her. That girl seemed like a stranger now. The girl walking off the stage was someone entirely different. She was confident without being arrogant, strong without being hard, and certain of her own worth without needing anyone else's approval to confirm it. Maya Washington had learned the most important lesson of her young life. True power didn't come from putting others down or making them feel small. True power came from lifting others up and helping them recognize their own strength. And that was a lesson she would carry with her, long after she left the halls of Lincoln High, spreading that same courage and compassion wherever life took her next.